See, that's what my daddy was like.
So she knew. She
But
knew.
I was only like maybe like 6 or 7 years old. So I don't
Yeah.
know what she's talking about. Right. And then they have this butter. It's called Lando Lakes.
That's my mom's favorite butter.
Yeah. She
Yeah,
pointed to the lady because there used to be a lady sitting on the lake with the sun
that's
shining
right.
on her. And
That's right.
she was like, now my mama was like this.
Oh my God.
She told me, I didn't know what she was talking about. I'm like, shorty, I don't know what
Yeah.
she's talking about.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, the early childhood, the parents is teaching you critical information in what they call an off the cuff statement. Most people let that stuff go,
Mhm.
right? When I asked my father if we was from Africa, he said, I don't know where I'm from.
He didn't have
you
any
know,
connection. Yeah.
yeah, but he knew his mama is native, so he knew.
Yeah. Well,
And he used to tell us about his grandmama who was a native who had hair down to her ankles.
that's right. That's
That's
right.
a status symbol in the tribes.
It is. You don't
They don't
cut your,
just let their hair grow down there like to their ankles like that unless you got a certain rank.
that's right. Because
And then
hair is a frequency. It picks up frequencies. It's an antenna. Yeah.
so my mama had this thing where she hated all the girls in the family to cut their hair because she felt like they was diminishing their rank.
Mm. That's deep.
And then like my sister cut her hair, my mama had a fit. And she didn't understand it. She still don't understand it because
Yeah.
she still see the world out of Western eyes,
Yeah. Well,
you
that's a
know.
social, yeah, that's a social conditioning that, they purposefully did, especially in the Americas to all the people. Because when I look at you, I come from the Caribbean, the it's really the Caraïbe, and we kind of stayed stationed in South America and the Caribbean. But you look like when my girls, I show my girls you, and they said you look like Papa. You look like my dad and my dad's kin. So that's the Taino side. And
Mm,
because we are cousins, because from North America, all of us interfaced with each other, married within each other's family shared a lot of things from Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, all the way down into the Caribbean, Haiti, Cuba, islands. We all have, that's why we look similar, because we're all from the Americas.
yeah,
So, we had an awareness of who we were and we had an awareness of who y'all were. That was never
yeah.
hidden in our culture. Yeah.
I used to tell people, and they think I'm crazy, or that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I used to say our big mamas on the mainland used to send the big mamas on the islands food stuff from the islands that they didn't grow. And they send us the stuff from the islands that we didn't. And that was a common practice
It was.
because they always sent delegations, right? It sent a delegation to Puerto Rico. Well, now it's Puerto Rico
Yeah.
and
La
Haiti,
Hispaniola, which is
Dominica,
Haiti and Dominican
yeah,
Republic. Yeah.
Cuba. So they was because they have different growing um fruits and
That's
vegetables
right.
from the islands that's different from the mainland. The only common denominator from the bottom of South America to the North Pole is corn.
That's true. That's true.
Everybody
Yeah.
participated in the corn
And the
festivals.
maize, maize.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Different
Yeah.
kinds. Like the heirloom corn has the purple, some have the white, the purple, white, and the red, not that geo-engineered corn that is, what they
Yeah.
give to us here in the States. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So we used to have corn festivals in the Southwest. We had barbecue festivals all through from Louisiana to what's called
Right.
Florida. What they call Juneteenth, that ain't got nothing to do with the emancipation of slaves. That's a big bald faced lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Juneteenth was the barbecue festival season. That's why it doesn't have a specific date because it took up the middle of June, the teen days.
I
Got
didn't,
nothing.
I
If
know.
you go back to the
Yeah.
stories say that somebody rode into Texas and told them that the slaves was free. The problem with that is there wasn't slavery in Texas at that time. That was Mexico.
Mm, that's right. Ooh, yes, your historical facts. Yes, exactly.
So why and then we was when they was taking our family farms and putting us in captivity on the family farms and rebranding them as plantation and took mama out of big mama house and call it the big house, we
Mhm.
wouldn't participate. We would leave. And everybody didn't go north. The majority of us went southwest.
Right. You're right.
Now, if you go to, like, if somebody go to Google right now that's watching and they don't know what I'm talking about, all they got to do is type Afro-Mexican,
That's right. That's right.
right? We was already there, though, because
We
what
were.
you know,
Yeah.
what we told our Aztec, Incas, and Mayans and Olmecs, them was the old Mississippians by another name.
Go ahead,
Same
Rob.
tribe. The biggest tribe on the land was the old Mississippians. This is the parent tribe to your five civilized tribes, your Washita nations, your Iroquois nations, your Hopi, your Cheyenne. All of
Right.
these different tribes are offshoots of the old Mississippi. That's the root tribe to the land,
That's right. And we share blood.
right?
There's a blood type that's shared amongst those people as well. That
Yeah.
references that. That's fact. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
now on the East Coast, we had ships that sailed back and forth between what we call now the motherland and the Americas. And for blood diversification reasons, so we don't have birth defects, we intermarried with the royal families on that continent over here. This long before Columbus was even gleaming his daddy eye. His daddy probably wasn't even born, and we was doing this. Matter of fact, his seventh great grandfather, twice removed, probably wasn't born, and we was doing this. In the BC period, we was sailing ships on the East Coast, making trade with Africa. The original Navy was the Mississippian Guard that guarded the Mississippi River and the Gulf.
Mm.
We don't know that because we think that we was just some savages because that's what they told us, and we have no capabilities of construction, but we got castles that they didn't converted into state buildings and prisons all over the land.
Yeah. And also,
and they all before Columbus.
yeah, and the Moors had technology beyond anything that Europe had ever saw. A lot of that European technology came after they were exposed to the Moors, right? And the Moors were the ones who.
That's who we've been fighting for the last 400 years, 500
years. Absolutely.
Because the ones in Europe, yeah, the ones that's in Europe, right? The ones that was in Europe, they came from the Babylonian Empire. Now, they made converts out of some people called Khazars.
That's right.
And some people that was called Sephardi.
Yep.
If you look in the 12 tribes of Israel, there is no tribe called Khazar, Ashkenaz, or Sephardi. Those are converts.
They're converts, yeah.
Right. Now, the reason they use them,
for political reasons, yeah.
That's called the blood shield, to conceal the actual power players behind the scenes. That's where you get your term Rothschild from. Blood shield, the protectors of the Holy Grail lines. But the Holy Grail line is not Jewish. The Holy Grail line is the earthborn, the Idama.
Well, Jewish didn't exist. J didn't exist. There was no J.
Right.
J-E, like Jesus, Jewish. It wasn't in the language at the time. That's further down the line. Yeah.
Right. And then they wasn't called Israelis either.
No.
That's the irony.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Israel didn't exist until 1948. So you wasn't calling them Israelis.
No. That was a colonized term created by the Rothschilds. Yes.
Yeah. So that was all Zionist propaganda for domination and global conquest. When they came over here, they had a standing order to not approach the Americas, and they violated it. And that's why they ended up sending Columbus over here. Columbus didn't come over here looking for a new trade route. He was looking for a homeland for the exiles from the Spanish Inquisition and the French Revolution. Right? So they getting kicked out of Europe in mass. They got a stopover point in the north of Africa called Al Maghrib. Today we know it as Morocco, Libya, Tunis, right? All the way up to the border of what we call today modern Egypt.
That's why they called America at one point, the capital was Morocco because of that connection.
Right, but what they was talking about, they're not talking about Morocco. Morocco has not been a country, but less than like 100 years.
Yeah, it's new.
Right. So who was the ancient Moroccans if Morocco didn't exist in ancient times? See, people don't like to talk about that. They get offended because they've been trapped in the dogmatic web of religion. But the reality of it is this was called the land of Tahuti. Europe and Asia was the land of Isis.
Yes,
Africa and part of southern India was called the Ethiop, or became later known as Ethiopia, which was the land of Prince Ea, commonly known as Enki. It was three major regions of the earth during the time of Atlantis. The tribes over here, we didn't care what they did on their own land. They ain't got nothing to do with us over here until they tried to impose their will on us.
absolutely.
And then they conjured my ass up. And here I am.
Resurrected in the times of the reset. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So let's kind of fast forward in that. Your mind, like your historical like references is like stellar. Like, usually, you get to people and generally they have bits and pieces. You have the full catalog, like from beginning to end, which is nice. It's refreshing. It's refreshing. You're teaching me some things, which is nice. I like to be taught sometimes, you know what I mean? Get some information that like makes my brain like go tweak, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Standing
let's
on the
kind of,
shoulder of giants, Floor.
what'd you say?
I'm standing on the shoulder of giants.
You are. You are. Um, let's kind of move on to the Americas and how, over the last couple of hundred of years, how things have changed. But, we were kind of bringing in this new, I don't think it's new. We were talking about like, we're bringing a little bit of that galactic. I don't want to even say galactic because it's kind of generic, right? It's really just an interdimensional kind of energy and beings that are connected to each of the realms, right? So when I talked about when you first came in, before I even spoke to you, and energy with me comes first before I even talk to you. And I speak about months ago being connected to beings that were gorillas, ape type beings, right? And during my contact, they came and I was kind of like feeling this ape type energy. And when I was in Brazil living for a bit, I talk about when I was in the jungle, I stayed in the jungle in the middle, in a home in the jungle. And the monkeys, moquecas, would not come towards me. They were frightened of me. They wouldn't come and approach me. They wouldn't touch me. They would run away. They didn't come near the house. And we were dumbfounded. So we figured it was that part of Brazil. So we went to another part of Brazil. It's the same thing. Fast forward now, I realized after I had contact with the gorillas, the ape, the Kong beings, which I know you're connected to, when they came with a little bit of like technology attached to them, almost like the movie. And I
Yeah.
found that really interesting. Before I saw the movie, I saw a bit of remnants, meaning that they had some technology that was beyond my comprehension, because they always make it seem like monkeys are remedial, savages, like just some sub-tier group. But it's far from that. And I realized the one monkey that others have reverence to and a little bit of fear of is the gorilla, the Kong being. And because I didn't had some interface with these beings, the moqueca, the monkey in Brazil, I had that energy and they're frightened of that. And it's not really frightened, they just have an understanding that whatever I'm connected to has a little more strength and reverence, and they just kind of keep a distance from that. So with you, because again, it came in a wave with you. It was interesting. It was all night. I was like, oh my God. I was like, I didn't realize it until it happened. I was like, oh Lord. The algorithm on my phone was like gorillas, monkeys, like big things, big mouths over there. I was like, oh, that's right. Okay. And I asked you some questions before to ask you because I'm always interested in your Chinese astrology. And you let me know that your Chinese zodiac is a monkey. Okay. So
Yeah.
you already carrying that energy on you, along with a little bit of, well, a lot of that Scorpion, Scorpion King energy as well. Um, so I want to kind of touch on that a little bit because I was fascinated and I really want to know your take on it. I'm really curious. And I told you I have a curiosity and I've never really talked to you before. So I get to
Mhm.
ask you all the fun questions that I only want to ask you. So
Girl.
so when we're thinking about the monkey, the gorilla beings, the Hunan, which is really the Hindu god, the gorilla god. Can you give us a little information on that god? Because that is something that's here. It's always been here. And I want to kind of touch that with you and then talk about some things that are going on that I think is coming in the field that has to do with those beings.
Okay, so the gorilla key is called the primate key. In every major landmass where there's a river basin forest is called a Congo region. In South America, it's the Amazon. In North America, it's the Mississippi. In Africa, it's the Nile, and it's another river called the Zambezi, I think, that has a Congo basin, right? This is the symbolism um, in totem animal magic. The gorilla symbolizes the father that looks over the family, right? And that's what's called the gorilla key. We also call the gorilla key the fuck it key. And what that means is when you did everything reasonably possible for you to do, just say fuck it. Because then now you let the universe have it, and the universe is going to make the adjustments to whatever errors you had and correct it and solve the problem for you. So when you get to Hanuman, right, Hanuman literally translates into English as handyman.
Yeah.
And his reputation is Hanuman completes all tasks, no task too big, no task too small. If you want the problem solved, you give it to the Hanuman. Right? In China, he's called Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. Right? And the Sun Wukong, the Monkey King, the legends say he was trapped in the Stone Mountain for 500 years until Titicaca came and spoke the sacred incantation to release him.
Mm.
Where else do you hear something about something being hewn from a mountain? Book of Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
The final blow to the Babylonian Empire. A single stone hewn from the side of the mountain. The side of the mountain is symbolic to the government, right? Mountains represent governments in the biblical literary metaphor. So one individual will be separated from the rest of the society in order to solve the problem of bringing down the Babylonian Empire by striking the feet of iron and clay.
Mm. Which is,
right?
I got it. Wait, just because when you said that, the clay, you said say that again, that last thing you said?
The stories say that a single stone was hewn from the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
And it struck the Babylonian Empire in the feet, made of iron and clay.
Interesting. Because the Jewish people call people golem, which are like clay people.
Yeah, Golem is the fabricated human with the incantation to the forehead to animate them.
Mm.
Right? This is why in law, human beings are called monsters.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what they're talking about. A made being, a being made from the dirt of the earth, a golem.
Golem, yeah. Why I mentioned that, as you said, the feet and then the mountains, because Mountain of Hermon over in Syria was just conquered by the Jewish people, Israelis. And it's interesting that you said that. Go ahead.
You got to also remember Mount Hermon is supposed to be the place where Semyaza and his cohorts made the agreement to subjugate the people of the earth.
Yes, yes.
Well, these were in the Sumerian tablets, those were called Igigi.
Yes.
Okay, now you had another mountain over there. They call it Sinai. CNAI. Sin, when they call you a sinner, they telling you that you are a practitioner of Babylonian rites of sin. Why do they call them the rites of sin? They was written by a Babylonian son of Enlil named Ninursin. And anybody practicing these blood rituals, money magic, sex magic, according to the Babylonian tradition, is a perpetual sinner.
Mm.
because you born in sin. I mean, you born into these customs and you don't know what you practicing. To be sure that you a sinner, they make sure you practice something called a Eucharist
Mm,
or a
yeah,
communion. That's
yeah.
a simulated blood ritual.
The Catholics, ways of the Catholic. Yeah, you take the
Yeah.
flesh is the wafer, and the blood of Christ is the wine. Yes.
Simulated cannibalism.
Hmm.
That's a
Absolutely.
that's a blood right ritual. It's not haphazard. They know what they doing.
Absolutely.
They not gonna do it the same as you gonna do it, because they just trying to, they got the little priest up there, he don't know what he doing. He think he really following something, but the Pope know what's up.
I know that's
Well,
right.
used to be popes. Now that robot that they calling the Pope, now he know what's up. He's a whole android that they put under the bed at night.
They fold them up and put them under and just take them out and turn on the battery. Turn it.
They
Okay.
don't even use him on a day-to-day basis. They probably use him probably a couple times a month.
They're trying to conserve energy, Rod. We're in that green energy time. That's what we're doing. We have to
Conservation
stay.
of energy, energy conservation. Anyway, so the legend of the Monkey King Hanuman, okay, when he was in the form of Sun Wukong, he was unruly, difficult to control. So the Buddha gave Tipikaka a ring to put on his head to block his psychic abilities
Mhm.
so she can control him. If she say a certain incantation, the ring crushes his head energetically and stops him from doing whatever he's doing.
Wait, hold. Is that the reason why people wear crowns, metal crowns? Is it a form of mind control programming? Is that why or
Mm-mm.
no? Okay, okay. Just go ahead. I'm sorry.
The crown is that's a Babylonian symbol as well of rulership. Over here, we didn't use gold crowns. We used stuff
Feather.
related to nature
Yeah, feather, pine cones, things of that nature.
and animal skins.
Yeah.
Right.
Horns.
So the chiefs depend, what they were for identifiers depend on what was their tribal totem animal
Hmm.
and what was the root tribe they was from. Like when you see Big Tookie, that big 6'4", 280-pound, all muscled with that big old afro, this is so his soldiers can see him on the battlefield. No matter where they at, they know where he at. And as long as they see him, they gonna fight to the bitter end. You can't stop one of them from fighting. Those are called Afro chiefs, right? That's an old Mississippian practice. Those were tribes that used to live in tree scaffoldings across the South. They chopped down all the trees to get them out of
Yes,
the
my
trees.
grandmother actually meant she was 104 and she mentioned something about them people living in the trees and somehow
Mm-hmm.
that's why some of the trees were burned down or they did milling at the time in that area specifically because of those people. She mentioned that
Yeah.
years ago when I was a little girl. Yeah.
And then the ones that lived in the swamp, they wore animal skins, mainly the alligator. They came from in Egypt is known as the Sobek priests. They used to ride alligators in the combat in Florida. That's why they started gator baiting the children to make the gators interested in the flavor of the people that they didn't eat.
Oh, I know that's right. Woo.
They even have old pictures of us. They didn't change and whitewash the imagery now, where these people that rode the alligators is pale faced. But that's not true. That was us. And the big mamas used to get the what they call the anointed oil from the alligator. It's the sacred elixir. It's a gold color oil, look like olive oil, to anoint the next chief. In spiritual practice, you know that you can use what's called a reasonable substitute when the actual thing is not available. They came over here as vampires, bloodsuckers, and
Mhm.
cannibals.
They still
We
are.
was already here wearing wolves, so they called us werewolves. And they say we look like kin, but we not, so they called us lichens.
Mm. God, Rod.
So they tell us a story in the movies, and they called the movies the Twilight. where the ones that you see native turning into wolves, but the ones that came from Europe is all vampires. They telling you the story.
They do. The natives were the wolves. Yes, yes. And the others
And
were the vampires. Yeah. And they
right.
used to,
Now, this is how
yeah.
you know that the vampires wasn't pale. When they got into the sun, they skin glistened like crystals.
Yeah.
That's called prismatic melanin, according to Dr. Phil Valentine.
Mm.
But they can trick you with cinema by whitewashing the characters so you don't even know what prismatic melanin is, so you will never make the correlation.
Interesting.
You see, a good example is Brother Kalai. Brother Kalai up in Philadelphia, in the summertime when he's standing in the sun, you can literally see it look like he got tiny crystals in his skin.
I've seen people like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
But he
usually have,
wanted he wanted Earthborn,
yeah.
right? But a lot of the stuff we don't know about our history, and it's been told to us in a upside down, backwards fashion to confuse us as to who we are. So we won't never exercise our birthright to reclaim and restore might, justice, balance, equilibrium back to the land, the people. In order to do this, you need a certain type of government.
Mhm.
We call it the tribal government, the great law,
Yes.
the way of the mother. We don't call it patriarchy. We call it the way of the mother. The
Yeah.
way of the mother became Europeanized as a term called matriarchy,
Yeah.
but it literally the way of the mother. The mother is the nurturer in the household, but she can't nurture if she at war.
Well, also they decapitate her from the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. She's no
Mm-hmm.
longer even present in the prayers or the concept of, being in
But
that
she's
division.
ever present. She's just concealed. That's why they call it the concealed mother
Mhm.
or the hidden goddess in masonry. Hold on, let me show you something.
Yeah. Y'all give Rod Hayes, like, he is, Fleur Ronan is like in like intellectual heaven. He is such a wonderful, like, wisdom bearing. Oh wait, Freemasonry and the Hidden Goddess. I've never seen that book before, Rod.
This
Who wrote
is
that
one
book?
of them. It's Freemason and the hidden goddess. She's hidden in plain sight though, and I'm gonna tell you how to find her. Get you a Strong's exhaustive concordance of the Bible and look up the name Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the letter J 500 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Now, go to the laws of grammar. Write the word according to phonetics,
Mm-hmm.
and you will come up.
Jesus.
It's no Y. It's Greek, not Hebrew.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah,
The New Testament was not written in Hebrew.
you're right.
It was originally written in Greek, and it's IESOUS.
Oh my God.
Now
What?
look, unto us a child is given, unto us a son is born, and we shall call his name Emmanuel. How many times did they call him Emmanuel in the story?
My mind is blown. I did. Oh my God. What? So Emmanuel was the name previous to what they perceive as Jesus. That was never Jesus, was just a
The
fictitious.
story of Isis and Horus told to us by a fiction writer by the name of Josephus Flavius. It's just that when the Constantinian Nicene Council got a hold of it, they had to try to figure out how to separate the mother, the most important character in the Bible, away from the son. So they give all the glory to the son, and it's gonna piss the son off because you denying his mama was rightfully hers.
That's right.
And they teaching these people to follow Emmanuel under the mama name Isis, but they gave it a J in order to confuse the mind and the psyche. But when they gave it the J, they called it the fish hook because I shall make you fisher of men. And ain't no man gonna catch more men than a woman. Let that sink in. Ain't no man gonna catch more men than a woman.
Y'all, you gotta please give a 13 to the, oh my God, this is amazing. I never
13 is the
saw.
queen mother's seal, the mother of the
That's right.
king.
That's right.
But the king had to emerge as a prince first before he ascended the throne as the king. And there is no man that's a kingmaker. Every kingmaker is a woman.
Absolutely. Yes.
You can't be the king unless you crowned by the woman. Go back and look at David when he was laying in his deathbed and one of his sons declared himself the king. And Bathsheba came to him and said, you know, your son that ran around out there, he think he done just took over, you still living. And it offended David. And David said, well, what do you reckon I should do? He said, you should crown Solomon. He the wisest of them all. So David called all of his staff in there and say, when I cross over, I'm leaving the throne to Solomon. It can be even you can even go back before that. When Esau and Jacob was wrestling over the birthright in the womb and they came out, the mama took side with Jacob, but the rightful heir was Esau. Esau mean earthborn.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob mean underminer.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the mother dressed the Jacob up because Isaac was blind. He put her on a fur coat and she cooked Esau's soup that he cooked for his father. And it tasted just like his soup. So who he learned to cook it from? And she sent Jacob in with his fur coat on and a bowl of soup to get the blessing from his father to run the kingdom. But he had to pretend to be Esau.
Mm.
It goes back before that. In the Adam and Eve story, when Cain slew Abel, right? Cain slew Abel out of jealousy, but what was he jealous for? He was the one who came with the meat because he was a farmer, and he was a herdsman, and Abel was the farmer who grew the vegetables. And they liked the vegetables more than they liked the meat, so it offended Cain. So he caught his brother in the field and killed him.
Mm.
Right? So then the Eve prayed according to the text, and she was given Seth.
Yes.
Right? And she said, today we will call his name Seth, for the Lord has granted my prayer and gave me a replacement for Abel. That's all in there.
I think, there was a debate. It wasn't really a debate. You would have been the appropriate person to deal with some people who had some biblical information, but you would have been the appropriate participant in such a conversation. You've gotten the information like for days, just archives. It's amazing.
Yeah. The reason I don't do debates for two reasons. One is I got to use somebody else's reference.
Absolutely.
And most of the people that we reference is secret society. Second one is when you tell somebody you getting information from a psychic source, you automatically invalid.
Absolutely. They always say it's not even legitimate. Yeah.
Because we can't cross-reference psychic information. We can only cross-reference what somebody else said a long time ago.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right? Then you got to go by it. Even if you use modern judicial standards, the courts tell you eyewitnesses are not always reliable.
Not at all.
You can have 20 people watch the same event and they gonna give you 20 different stories.
Absolutely.
So how do I know who to accept as an accurate source? If it's not a direct source, it's not accurate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, when you go look at the history of the Bible, ask yourself who wrote it and how do you know who wrote it?
No one was there to reference
Nope.
it.
Nobody's here that was there to tell us who wrote it,
Yeah. We have
right?
to listen to those styrofoam cups and listen to the general consensus of each generation that gives us. And then speaking another language, you already know when we translate the language, you always lose like parts of the translation is always non-accurate.
That goes to a part of the grand deception of the biblical. Christianity was the first religion. It's only three religions, and they all monotheistic Judeo-Christian religions, and that's Christianity, Judaism, and Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the order that they was presented to the public. Judaism is not older than Christianity. It was the convenient backstory for the rebels who didn't want to go with the story as it was given. Right? So if you go back to the time frame of the life of the so-called character they call Jesus, right? And they say he existed between 3 AD and 37 AD or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now, at that time, who was ruling in Egypt?
Pharaoh?
Cleopatra.
You're right. You're right.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Where's Cleopatra's tomb? Okay, let me put this another way. When the woman is in charge of the governments of Egypt, what was she called by the people of the land?
I don't know.
She was called by two terms. She was either referred to as Aset
Yes.
or Marie.
Yes.
In English, it would be Isis or Mary.
Yes, because Mary was
Hail
the
Mary,
replacement of
Mother
that.
of God.
Yes. Yes.
How in the hell is you the mother of God and you ain't God?
Mm.
You can't birth something greater
You
than
can
you.
birth God if you're not a God yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Only goddess can birth a God. Yes.
Right. So now, if you go back to the contemporary time and you look at the other events of the era that we given along with this doctrine, you're gonna notice that Cleopatra was said to be she was supposed to die in her maiden chamber at the by death adder. Now, also in that time, you had two warring factions of priests that started the war started in the reign of King Tut, which made him have to be ushered into hiding. And these warring priest factions was called Amun priests and Atian priests. The ideology difference is the Amun priests said, conceal your inner light. Do not let the world know of your divinity. Right? Pretend to be like everybody else and live high on the hog. The Atian priest was like, no, if you got the God gene and you got the God power, shine your light into the world. Remember this parable about the candle under the basket?
Yes. Yes.
Right? And then he say, when these two eyes become one, and then you become the light of the world. Gerald Massey wrote the book, Ancient Egypt, Light of the World.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, now, when we looking at Cleopatra, they saying she died in her maiden chamber at the hands of the adder, but they don't have her tomb. They don't have her grave site. They don't know where she went. She disappeared from the face of the earth 3 days after she died. Do the
Until
math.
you asked that question, I had no clue. I always thought it was there, but no, we have no reference to it ever.
So Cleopatra is actually a confusion of terms. And it's supposed to, if you look at it masonically, it literally says, see Leo, the panther. This makes you addicted to the cat. You become a cataholic. A cataholic is a Catholic. The Pope sits under the sacerdotal seat. But the sacerdotal seat is the seat of Vatica, the goddess, who was called Vatica in Greek, but she was called Auset in the Kemetic language.
Yeah.
Right? Jacob is the underminer. The Pope sits under her seat. Do the math. The math be mathing if you know how to, if you know all of the equations.
Y'all.
Okay, now Cleopatra mysteriously disappeared. You go to Australia now, because in Australia there's a legend about a woman came from Egypt running from assassins across the Queen's land. The same imagery that they drew in their petroglyphs on their stones was a woman holding a baby that looked just like the Black Madonna and Child. So
oh my God.
they used, okay, go to the movie The Serpent and the Rainbow for the reference for what I'm about to tell you next.
Okay.
The priesthood knew how to sedate you where you have no vitals.
Yeah,
right.
Dust, that magic, the dust.
Mm-hmm. So they need to get Cleopatra from under the Roman rulership. The only way to get her out of there is to feign her death.
So you're saying Cleopatra faked her death and was relocated?
Yeah. When she left Australia, she sailed to South America and they migrated all the way up into North America. The tribes was concealing them the whole way. This is your Sun Wukong's journey to the west. Nazca lines are eagle and the monkey, the phoenix and the monkey. How is Sun Wukong supposed to get to the west from India and Africa in the way? Now, we know this to be valid because
I gotta take a deep breath. Like, you're blowing my mind, and I'm just like my brain is like tweaking. Hold on, Rod. You can't deliver information like, like, listen. hold the monkey. Hold on. Let me take a deep breath. Y'all, I hope y'all ready. I hope you got, like, listen. You have me in such a state of like mental, intellectual euphoria. I'm bugging out. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Okay. I think I'm there. Go ahead, Rod. Go ahead.
Okay, so now, and what we know today is the Grand Canyon has the oldest sacerdotal seats of the
Yes.
earth.
Yes. Oh my God. And
Temple of Isis, Temple of Tahuti.
Yes.
Now, there has to be a way where the ancestors leave us to reclaim everything. We call it the redemption process. How do you get from under admiralty jurisdiction and get back to the jurisdiction of the land? That's the great dilemma that we in, because everybody from your militia, Montana militia, to your Archway law, to your sovereign citizens, to your Moorish paradigm, they all trying to get from under admiralty jurisdiction, but they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
They keep using the admiralty rulings in order to try to force them to acknowledge their own rules.
Yes,
they don't acknowledge their rules when it apply to us.
Not at all. Not at
They
all.
only acknowledge them when it's to their benefit. That's why you have so many innocent people in prison. They don't care nothing about you screaming innocent. They don't care. I don't mean nothing to them. Everybody innocent according to them. That's what they tell you. Everybody in prison say they innocent. I ain't tell nobody that BS. I was guilty of sin. But I had a valid reason though. But I didn't never tell them. So they didn't never know. Right? So in the challenge to admiralty jurisdiction, you have to go back to your own cultural, historical record of oral tradition. In modern law tells you the parameters for what you call a oral law enforcement. It has to be in the public domain in a timestamp archivable format. Social media meets the criteria for public notice.
Sure, sure.
The next thing you have to know in your public notices is who did it? The Dirty Moors. Where they come from? Europe. They got exiled, kicked out, came over here. Under the who told them to come over here? It was the discovery doctrine of the Pope and the papal bulls of the several popes before that. Right? Okay, so now we know who did it and where they came from and who sent them. Why did they come over here? Because when they brought them to the earth, wherever the hell they came from, other dimension, other planet, other somewhere, they didn't have a home nowhere on the planet.
No.
Okay, now that brings about a question that any sane person would ask. Well, where the hell they come from and how did God create somebody that don't got a homeland? We had a homeland. They want our homeland.
I have some theories to that, but
Right. So now we hear about the Jewish God telling them he promised them a homeland.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's a righteous God, he doesn't have to take anything from anybody to give his people a homeland. He would have created them where they supposed to be and left them there.
Well, that's what the Orthodoxy, a segue of the Orthodoxy Hasidite community believe, that they aren't supposed to go to Israel. They're supposed to roam until such time.
Okay, now that takes you to the book of Job. Where comest thou, Satan? The sons of God came to prostrate before the Lord. And Satan came also among them. And the Lord said to Satan, where comest thou? And Satan said, from roaming to and forth, up and down, back and forth in the earth. Nomads. No homeland. Right? So if they don't got no homeland and Satan don't got no homeland and Satan is promising everything to the Christ from the hill, remember?
Yeah.
And the Christ was like, how the hell you gonna promise me this? You can't give me nothing. My Father gives me everything. Right? Remember?
I do.
And he would refuse to bow down before Satan. Well, who the hell is Satan?
Who is Satan?
So Satan is an Egyptian word. It's two words, and they've been the positioning of the words was changed for the purposes of translation.
Absolutely.
The letters EN means literally Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Lord Set is Satan, the one who slew his brother in order to take his throne.
That's right.
All that sound familiar. Them sibling rivalries from Cain and Abel to Jacob and Esau, to Set and Osiris, to Enki and Enlil. The same story keep repeating.
It's the same. It's zeitgeist. It's the same story over and over, repeating. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Now, it's seasoned like a good cooked meal with the culture of the local people. If the local people believe something, they will adapt that same storyline
to fit their narrative and their culture.
To fit their culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now, understanding that, when you're looking at it from that lens, you start to see that we had a savior story over here. It's called Popol Vuh. But we didn't have no brother sibling rivalry over here.
No. It wasn't a story in the lexicon of any of the natives here. No.
Right. Because now that they've been over here, they got something called, I think it's called the Panapi Bible or the Lenape Bible, where they said that they killed Jesus and they wasn't never even over there in the Middle East. They had to change the narrative because they said, so you people killed your God and you want us to follow your God after y'all killed him. We don't ascribe. No. But when the translators retranslated it, it said that the Lenape killed Jesus.
They'll just
Yes,
change it to fit the narrative of the culture and
right.
the land mat wherever they're
And,
living.
and we have what you call modern paradigms to show us the historical repeat. Example, when they came over here and set up America, they set up what's called an interim government. It was a wartime interim government. The modern example is the Gulf War after 9/11 when they put Muhammad Karzai in power. That's the same thing they did to Adam Weishaupt, and they called his name George Washington.
Okay.
So the stories, they all scramble like eggs. It's like unscrambling the egg. It's almost impossible, but it's not. Right? Now, when you're looking at the understanding of a interim government, then you will realize why the police is an occupying foreign military power masquerading as serving and protecting the people of the land when they charter and they instructions come from the Crown of England in
That's
London.
right. Yes. Sure.
Hold on 1 second.
Take your time. All right, is everybody enjoying this? My mind is blown, like little pieces of the puzzle putting together. Yeah. I'm not as biblically sound, but little things that I know, and you're putting that together, cinching in bits of information that had no place, that now have a place, can house somewhere that I didn't have an understanding of.
Yeah. So the first gods that was creating people was women by parthenogenesis,
Absolutely. And still to
right?
this day, there are women who still participate based on genetics and some environmental factors, can still give birth through parthenogenesis. Not very often, but occasionally you'll get it.
It happens more than we possibly could imagine.
More than they'll report.
Yeah, sometimes you will have a child and the girl be only been with one man the last 5 years, right? She have a baby, but the DNA don't match.
That's right.
Because
Absolutely.
the woman, all of the people that she dated before that she had sex with, she have their genetic data in the queen's chamber of our brain.
We keep all DNA. We keep it and we source it. And what's interesting about that is that most women, and this is not, we're not medical, we're not doctors. I have to say that this is, quack quack. But when we talk about fibroids and the people who have the most fibrotic kind of symptoms or have that in their body tend to be melanated women. Those are the original women that were able to give birth through the process of parthenogenesis. So with some of the things that they give people at birth, I personally, as someone who worked in genetics, think it's something that was meant to stop and hold that process of being able to birth ourselves.
It's totally possible because the fibroids is normally the side effect of an acute toxin buildup around the uterine area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when the body try to stop a toxin, it normally encapsulated in a pus ball, and over time the pus ball turns into a tumor.
It does. It does. But
Because it's
sometimes
steady
it's hair and
sending.
teeth, nails, reminiscent
Yeah.
of a little being. Yeah.
And so you don't know that a woman can have a man in front of her and he got missing qualities genetically that she want to produce. So she go into the queen's chamber in her brain, pull out her library of DNA,
That's right.
and use him as the outline, and then she fill in the template.
She colors in the lines. Yeah.
Yep, that's mitochondrial power at work.
Absolutely. And this is also why back in the days, kings and other men only wanted virgins because they overstood and understood that if they weren't the first to participate with this young lady, most likely she was stockpiling DNA from previous lovers. Yes.
Yep, and that's why the virgin has been revered so greatly.
Absolutely.
Right. And most men don't want to take care of another man's child if he could have his own.
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that.
And that's social engineering as well, because if you go to the gorilla clan, look at a tribe of gorillas, right?
Mm-hmm.
The silverback, he ain't the father to all of the children in the clan,
No, no, he
but
isn't.
he will give you the same amount of the business about one of the ones that ain't his as he give you about his.
That is true.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is why the gorilla totem is a powerful totem for an aspiring father to be associated with, because he's going, if he accept that woman and she got babies, them his,
That's right.
because he gonna give you the same amount of the business about the ones that he taking care of as the ones he produced.
That's right.
He not gonna discriminate. He gonna f you up about all of them.
That's right.
Right. And that protective instinct is a father's instinct that matches the mama bear. Like, people don't understand that women have the ability to use the laws of nature to her advantage to protect her children. Right. When you look at the mama bear as the prime example of what I'm talking about, she can be 150, 200 pounds smaller than a big male bear.
Mm-hmm.
She can't beat him if she ain't got no babies. He'll run her away if she ain't got no babies. But if she got some babies,
Oh, she'll bring
she's
it to him.
activating multiple laws of nature simultaneously. Her ferocity is unmatched.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. And then she got him on the run. She'll run off a whole pack of wolves about her babies.
She will. She
by
will.
herself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the woman in Shakti mode, in Kali Ma mode, in Sekhmet mode.
That's right.
The
Taking
goal
heads.
is for a man to come into a woman's life that's in that mode and take her from Sekhmet to Bast, or to Isis, or to Venus, or to Oshun.
Yeah.
He don't want her to come in with that war energy, because now he at war in his own home, and he don't even know why. Because I don't know what your linguistic restrictions is, but she see you as a bitch ass nigga. And since she see you as a bitch ass nigga, she can't boss up or relax, create the feng shui,
I agree.
the heaven at home, because she don't know if somebody come crawling in the window at night, do she got to go confront the enemy?
Yes, exactly.
Because his bitch ass might be behind the bed hiding.
That's right. Or screaming, running. You've seen it like,
all that.
Yeah.
Now they make parodies out of it and they turn it into comedy, so
They
it
do.
seems somewhat normal.
Yeah, they're normalizing it. Men running away, running in front of the women, leaving the women vulnerable to whatever comes, to attack them.
That's not, and under the matriarchy, it's zero tolerance for bitch assness in men.
I'm with you on that. Yeah.
That's not tolerated under matriarchy. But when you being governed and ruled, and your future is dictated by homosexual pedophile priest cults, they want to effeminize the man to hypermasculize the women, so that we will slow down our reproductive rate. Absolutely. So that they can control our baby producing abilities.
And they're doing well, it's really affecting many other, they thought it wouldn't affect the birth rates of others, but it's affecting, other people are having zero birth rate now.
We baby kids. We baby kids.
Yeah.
This is the thing that they found out during the last 500 years that they didn't believe was true. The harder you oppress us, the more we proliferate.
Oh, absolutely. As a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
Anywhere where you have mothers that have the most amount of poverty, and you see it in places like South America and Africa, where there's the most amount of poverty and adversity, you'll see a multiple births coming out of that to give her more of a chance of survival, and for her bloodline to be able to have some form of satisfaction, whether it's 1 or 2. So you'll give birth to 10 if you have a higher mortality rate, just to give you a chance to progress your.
If you go back to the 70s and the 60s, they was trying to encourage what they called the four-family household. A man, a woman, a boy, and a girl. Don't want you to have no more than 2 children.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And they use that as a standard in the wealthy community
Of
and
course.
the ones that were so-called privileged,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's so that they can say the reason that I'm poor is because I got all these babies,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Which is not true.
No.
The
Tribal children
wealth,
always were assigned and built wealth. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the large families are the ones who have the most capability of overcoming the oppression because one of them in that family is going to see something that the rest of them not going to see.
That's right.
So our women was having 12, 13, 15, 18, 20, sometimes 30 kids,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And
That's what
don't mention the father.
that's what Planned Parenthood was for
Right.
in the
That was
hood.
to slow down, trying to stop baby kids because they
Mm-hmm.
can't stop us.
We gonna have babies until we die.
Yeah.
And that's what we were supposed to do, reproduce, and that's part of being fruitful, right?
Yeah. Be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How can you
And
replenish something that don't have nobody here?
it's true. And also,
Replenish means fill it back up. It's been depleted,
yeah. And also
right?
that's
That's a refill.
absolutely. And also that's why they promote, menopause, pausing on men from many different places, from the islands, give birth until darn near they nearly die or kaput.
Mm-hmm.
But they make certain processes that you have to go through, telling women to go get your daily mammogram, and then all of a sudden, oops, oh, your menses is gone. I wonder why.
Yeah. Well, that's chemically induced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest causes of menopause is birth control pills,
Absolutely. And
right?
birth control pills are not only in the pill form, they're in food form too. Remember that.
Yeah. And now it's in the water,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
along with the hormones and all that.
yeah. Psychedelic
Uh,
drugs, yeah, all that
yeah.
good stuff.
So now you got animals that don't have the level of resistance of a human spontaneously gender transitioning.
Mhm. Started with the frogs first, most sensitive to the environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Frogs were switching sexual disposition, actually gaining some of the gonads, actually growing wombs because of the exposure in the soil to the lexicon of chemicals that were coming out of the sky via the governmental chemtrails, which are harmless, according to the federal government.
Ever since the first Trump election, they've been spraying stuff to try to clean that up. And this is why you have it looking like rocks falling out the sky.
Mm.
It's binding agents that bind to those chemicals to get them out
Mm.
of the air. In some places, your snow, it looked like styrofoam because
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
binding agents.
yeah.
In some places, they even literally raining rocks.
Yeah.
Well, all that's the stuff that they using to clean up the chemtrails. Well, we don't know. We out here going about our daily life, la-di-da-di-da. Somebody was terraforming the earth for a new species to inhabit it,
Absolutely. Giving us the
right?
blueprint in social media for us to accept certain types of new physiology, them, they, Zerzy, all kinds of new wording to accept a new kind of, geoengineered life form, or
Yeah.
a life form that was being introduced here, like the other life forms that came previously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when we looking at the totality of the picture and we come to now, what's taking place now, based on what historically has happened, they days is up. That's it for them. It's over. Now we seeing the rollout of the ones that's sending these orbs ahead of them before they get here. The government desensitizing the people with drones the size
Absolutely.
of SUVs.
Absolutely.
And you know this because Donald J. came on and said they know exactly where they at. If they came out of a garage, the military can go
They
right in
know
that
where they,
garage.
absolutely.
They know where they came from. They know where they went. That's the drones, but that ain't the orbs.
But you notice that they purposefully created a new term called UAP to take away
Mm-hmm.
the verbiage UFOs, which is classic. And they
Mm-hmm.
make sure they keep saying drones, but they don't tell you this these light ships, and some are diamond-esque type of macabre looking ships. They don't speak about that, and they don't tell you why there's plasma shooting at the orbs, shooting some of them down. I mean, not the orbs, shooting at the drones, shot a few of them down.
So when you get to the biblical description of the angel and they draw the picture and they give you the Dyson sphere,
Mhm,
that's what the orbs are. Those are
absolutely.
satellites. Those are reconnaissance satellites that is sent ahead of the fleets before they get to their destination. Wherever they
Yeah,
coming from, if they
they're
coming
scouts.
from the inner earth, if
Yep.
they coming from a parallel dimension, if they coming from outer space, if they coming from a different time zone, wherever they coming from, they send those orbs, those Dyson spheres, as satellites. And all of those, what appear to be eyes, are just cameras. They give them a 360-degree panoramic view of the layout before they come.
Mhm,
So when they come, they know where they're going. They know what they're
absolutely.
about to enter into before they get there.
Mhm. And the orbs are actually placed on, we've noticed and documented, they're over every landmass, and it's usually one, if it's a smaller landmass, so you'll see the orbs positioned there. So they're definitely documenting the area and getting a scope of what's going on. And the other places like Jersey, maybe where there's more nuclear facilities and more, that's where the drones are erecting in more masses to try to accommodate and try to, try to cloak the others that are here. Yeah.
So let me point out something since you brought up New Jersey.
Yeah.
Noble Drew Ali went into what's called the Moorish Zionist Jewish temple and discovered the magic that they was using to subjugate the people of the land.
Mm.
He came out of, this was in New Jersey, in Newark, New Jersey. He came out of the Moorish Zionist temple and established the Moorish Science Temple, right? Because it was a direct confrontation to the Moorish Zionist Jews, right? These Moorish Zionist Jews is niggas.
Which is Sephardic, just FYI. Sometimes they call themselves Sephardic.
The Sephardi are the Spanish converts,
Mhm,
pale skinned Spanish converts.
mhm,
The original Moorish Zionist Jews was nappy head niggas,
mhm.
right? And they live across the land in gated communities and they talk about us like a dog, metaphorically speaking.
Mhm.
And they don't like us. And the only time we gonna see them is when it's time for them to send in what we call operatives to interfere with some progressive movement we have.
That's right. And they start working side by side, looking like you, but they're not you.
And they maybe their famous thing is kill Whitey, but we don't know he Whitey until we read Black's Law Fifth Edition, meaning a white free white person in law. It mean a more.
Mm.
So when you read Secret Relation Between Blacks and Jews, printed by the Nation of Islam Research Team, you will realize some of the places where these Jews is wasn't no pale faces into the 1900s.
Nope. They were all brown.
Then, yeah, I show you another one.
Yeah.
This book right here is called Empty Wagon.
Empty wagon. Oh.
This is a pale-faced Jewish rabbi. The subtitles say Zionist journey from identity crisis to identity theft.
Ooh, 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 ooh.
The book is about
What year was it written? What year was it written? Can you see?
let me look.
I'm sorry, because I went to school with Dr. Jeffrey, so I wanted to know
You, you Dr. Jeffries.
which is friends with Malachi Z. York. Yeah. He was my professor in college.
You
Yeah.
mean Dr. Leonard Jeffries?
Yes. Isn't it synchronistic?
Yeah, that's something else. You know, Dr. Ben wrote a book called We the Black Jacobins,
Yes, yes, yes.
right?
If you
So
can find the data, don't worry. I'm going to ask you later because I want to find out if it syncs with something else. Yeah.
it's right here in the front of the book.